All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Manaverse Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Traplin, and I have with me John Covello.
Hi, guys.
Okay.
I'm the owner of the Little Shop of Magic in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yep, and Wayne Middlestead.
How you doing, guys? I am Wayne Middlestead, owner of Dueling Grounds in Toronto. Sorry.
We're having identity crisis today.
Which store do I own again? Dueling Grounds. Okay, and and today we're actually going to be talking about setting up your business plan, the ins and outs, what it can do for you, how much time should you spend on it. We're just going to tear it apart and see what we can discover about the whole thing. Is it necessary? How much does it actually benefit the average game store? So, who wants to talk about their business plan experience first?
I guess I'll start. I'll start with saying that I went about 4 years into my business without having a business plan. And it's not just, well, I had no clue what it was or why I should have done it, et cetera, et cetera. When we started the business, it started by accident. It was me and my old business partner with some extra singles because we didn't know what to do with them. And so it was really ad hoc. It wasn't until we're like, oh, maybe we should like go look for a loan and expand, right? And when we went looking for a loan, the bank said, so what's your business plan? And we were like, what is that, right? So is it absolutely necessary? Probably not. Would I recommend it nowadays when somebody comes up to me and goes, hey, John, I want to open up a business store? The first thing I go, okay, show me your business plan, right? And that's when a lot of people still wake up to that, like, what? What are you talking about? What is that, right? So
maybe we should talk about like what a formal business plan looks like.
Sure. You want to take that, Wayne, real quick?
Oh, geez. I wouldn't really be the best person to ask what a formal business plan looks like because I haven't done it in over 14 years. See, I thought I was the guy who started without finished business plan. You're the one who was all prepared, so I thought we had a whole gamut. But my experience was, gosh, I took an accounting course, I took an intro to business course, and then I took up and that was at a school, and then I took a private course for startup businesses specifically marketed to entrepreneurs, and that was actually the best course I took. In that startup business course, part of it was obviously to make a business plan, and so I went through the motions of a business plan. I didn't finish it. I got a little more than halfway through, and already had a good idea of what I wanted to do. I had a lot of confidence in myself and just had this dream and just went for it without doing all the math, without figuring everything out. And, I just got really lucky. I worked my butt off,
sure.
but also a lot of things just fell into place for me. So I certainly don't recommend starting a business without a business plan, but you can get away without doing one or finishing one. I think the important thing is that you think about your business, what you want to do with it, what you expect from your business, and how you expect to achieve that. To me, that's one of the more important things. But one of the most important things, of course, is crunching all the numbers and seeing if you can even reach your break even. Your break even is essentially as long as you're making sales to cover all your expenses and to continue buying product and just to stay in business, that's sort of your break even. And if you're not making your break even, you're just digging yourself deeper and deeper into debt until you go out of business, or you're reaching your break even and hopefully rising above that so you can grow your business. And that's another way your business is going to die. If you don't grow, you're just gonna slowly wither up because you have to have some forward motion. So I wish I could give you more information on what a proper business plan structure looks like.
So I would say there really isn't. I've seen a lot of different business plans, and I can't say that there's one template that works for everything, right? So I tend to. You're right on a lot of things of what you said, which is like you got lucky. You worked your butt off, by all means. I understand that. But I also got lucky, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I worked my butt off. I was going to college. I was working 7 days a week, 5 days at my primary job, 2 days at the store, et cetera, right? But it was a different time. It was 1994, and magic was like becoming this thing, right? Nowadays, you have a lot more competitors. You have a lot more professional competitors. It's not that same market. So I guess the big thing with the business plan would be there's two types of business kind of plans. One's the one that I call the wake-up call that you're doing for yourself. Even if you're not looking for money from a bank, right? You do this business plan to, like Wayne said, sort of put the numbers together and start getting an idea of what it's going to take for you to stay alive. And the break-even point is great. It's a great place to be. Most businesses sort of plan on sort of losing money in the first year, maybe the first couple of years, but eventually your cash reserves get eaten up and you have to have this break point. And like you said, Wayne, one of the problems with the break point, if anything changes in that equation, you don't have growth, you don't have a buffer to kind of rely on. So that sort of business plan, whether it's internal, what you put in it is really up to you. But the important thing there with that one is to make sure that you have some realistic expectations of what you're going to make. Are you going to live off this business? Are you going to try to make a partner happy too? Do you have investors? It may not be a bank that still need to be paid off, and those need to be factored into this thing. The reality is when you start crunching those hard numbers, some of the things, I think we lost Wayne. But,
it's okay.
Some of the things,
bring him back in.
Yeah, some of the things that come up to light then is like, whoa, this is not anywhere close to what I thought it was going to be. And then there's the other one which is basically a sales pitch. If you are going to the bank and you are asking the bank to give you money, they're going to want to know what's their likelihood of getting that money back, and that becomes literally a sales pitch. So you have certain things that you need to put in there to literally convince these people to invest in your business. And those are a little bit different, but we can go over what I put in mind and what I see the difference between the two. But again, I don't think there's a template that works for everything, right? It really depends on what you're trying to do with that business plan. Should you do it? Absolutely. Whether you're seeking money from somebody else or not, you should always do a business plan.
Yeah, at least something, some basic structured thing to establish what your goals are and what you want out of it.
Yeah.
But
and as Wayne pointed out too, it's not that uncommon for businesses in this industry to start off without even knowing what one is or how to do it. And I am remiss. We did our last business because I tend to renew it every year just to polish it off, see if anything needs to be changed and modified, where we're going, what we're trying to add to the store. And last time I did it was about 1.5 years ago when we started looking at, okay, lease is coming up, we're going to expand, what are we doing, right? And now I got so busy, Archimedes. Now I got so busy that literally I didn't have a chance to get to it. Excuse me for 1 minute, I'll go take care of him and I'll be right back. Wayne, you want to take over?
Sure.
So do you have a business plan in place now, Wayne? Are you planning on doing one? What's the deal? I know you said you went a long time without one. But...
Yeah, well, I started one. I did like a little more than halfway through. I basically reached a point where I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing, and I don't feel like I have to spend time writing it down on paper. I wasn't, and probably because I wasn't getting a bank loan. Like I didn't need one except for my own purposes, and I felt like, not knowing any better, that I didn't really need one because I thought I had it all figured out. But that being said, I have gone back and looked at what I'd written and reflected on that and updated a few things over the years, but haven't really rewritten my business plan. It's something that I will probably be doing in the near future, just because I'm sort of back at a place where I feel like I'm starting again. Like I have, because of my recent kidney transplant, and has given me this crazy amount of energy and motivation. I really feel a lot like I did when I first opened 13 years ago. So, with this energy and motivation, I do certainly need to direct that, and I've been jotting notes furiously in my notebook. That's not a business plan, but it's definitely sort of moving towards that process. So and I don't know if you really have to follow, like you were saying, a strict, specific structure. I mean, you can find lots of templates online for what business plans are, but you don't necessarily need to tackle every one of those subjects. Like marketing strategies, for example, I'm already doing pretty much all I can do marketing wise. Operations and management plan. I've got that pretty much. That's kind of like what I've been writing in my notebook recently. Re-evaluating what my day-to-day duties are, seeing what I can delegate more to my employees and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I guess you could say I'm in the process of writing a business plan. Haven't formally begun, but definitely have a lot of notes over the past few weeks. So I look forward to articulating that properly in a business plan and taking a good look at it.
So, and you said that your notes are not a business plan. In a sense, they are. They're your business plan to you, right?
Yeah.
I think the difficulty you run into is obviously if you're using that to obtain a loan, that's not going to work.
No.
Right. And the other thing that doesn't work really well at, especially with my handwriting, is conveying your message to your employees. And that's another reason why I feel a business plan is important. If you have employees on staff, and I really consider my management team especially part of me. They literally, we make decisions together. They're smarter than I am. They're younger than I am. They have better ideas than I do, right? In general, I think they put more into the business than I do at this point. I'm the old grouchy guy set in his ways, right? And they come up with the cool new ideas. So the difficulty there, though, is I'm still the guy that in the end has to sign that check for that project or for their payroll. So I need to convey my vision one way or the other. In the business plan, when I'm revising and updating it, there's a lot of confusion right now. What are we putting into the cafe? What are we doing with the new store, reserve rooms, et cetera? Because I haven't put it down on paper, and we keep we use like Asana and other team tools to sort of share ideas. But when it's formalized and it's something like that, you can literally have a kind of reference guide and a blueprint for where you're going and what you're doing. So I would say that's even if you have staff, it's important to have it. And a lot of people go back and forth. Do I share that with my staff? I think with your management team, at the very least, yes, you should.
I have a much smaller business than you, right? It's me and then a few part-time guys. I do pretty much all the heavy lifting as far as running the business. Again, not to take anything away from my employees because they work damn hard and they're really good. But I do most of the management. I do all the buying. I do all the payroll. I do all the marketing. I do almost all of the event planning. And what I do to make sure communication is clear with my employees is I do a weekly employee memo. So every week I have a list of things I want to talk about, make sure we're all on the same page. It might list new releases, yada yada. So in that respect, I am making sure we do have a common vision, overall vision. That's really that's my job, and that's what I'm doing. So I don't, they know what my overall vision is, just because it is a small company, and they know that I want to be the more casual shop and whatnot. So I think because we're a small, close-knit shop, that's mostly understood.
Sure.
With the employee memos, that makes sure that we're all on the same page.
So it's back to that. One size doesn't fit all. It really depends on what you're trying to do with your business. But at the base gist, though, it is important to put the stuff on paper, even if just for you, right? So if we wanted to talk about what you put in your business plan, again, are you making that wake-up call business plan, which is I want to get into this, and I have no idea what I'm doing, and can I do this, right? That's going to look way different than something that's like, look, I'm going to get into this, and I need a $100,000 loan from the bank, right? Mine started initially with like a cover page, right? And it's still there because it hasn't changed. But a cover page really is just literally, hey, this is how you get a hold of me. If you have any questions, and it's amazing how many people don't even think about it. It's stupid, it's simple, it's one page with like, here's who I am, here's where you can get a hold of me. If the investor at the bank has to go digging for that in the document, you're just lessening your chance of them even bothering with it, right? The second thing I put in there, and I think this is important either way, is like a summary, an executive summary of just like, what are you going to, how is your business going to be successful, right? Just really short and simple. What makes you different than your competitors? Why are you going to make money doing this and somebody else hasn't already done it, right? Because that, for me, for my plan, is a back to the core values. What makes us different to our competitors? How are we better, or we position ourselves in a market that's not so saturated kind of situation. But if you're looking at an investor, that second page, if you can't grab them at that second page, you pretty much lost them, in my opinion, right? So it's kind of like if you think of it as a resume, right? You need something at the beginning that is not your curriculum vitae, and not the like, this is why I'm special, this is why you should hire me. And it goes the same way with that business plan. So,
well, it generally starts with a summary, right? I mean, they call it an executive summary, but you just summarize what you want the reader to know all about you, right. What your desires are. I mean, a lot of times people kind of bury that part way back in the business plan, and it's like that's the part you have to really have up front. Like, this is what we're all about, and this is what I want to do, and this is these are my goals, and that's usually after the summary. That's followed by like a business description, where you get more detailed into what your business is all about. And then you can get into your marketing strategies, analysis of all your competitors, your development plan, your management plan. Again, like that, the management plan, I don't know, that doesn't feel like it. Operations and management doesn't seem to fit me, because I am operations and management.
Sure.
So.
That's really for later on, right?
That being said, though, too, like I said, I am with the note taking I've been taking the past few weeks. I have been laying out, breaking down what I should be doing through each day, Monday to Friday, and that's actually really helped to refocus myself on my business. So it's, even if you know what you're supposed to do, just writing it all down and breaking it down throughout your week. It really helps you focus, for sure. And you might catch some things like, oh wait, I should be like, one of the things I realized, I'm like, I should be talking to my suppliers Monday, Tuesday, and getting those shipments out until they arrive Wednesday at the latest, Wednesday, Thursday, instead of like, some weeks, it doesn't get to me in time for the weekend, which is disastrous. Things like that.
Yeah, and I agree with you. So one of the things I've heard is that entrepreneurs tend to have a tendency to get easily bored, right? We get the new shiny on our desk, and that's what we pursue. So the good thing about a business plan or a general plan of action for yourself, even if it is just for you, is that you stay on track. You're like, oh yeah, I want to look at, I don't know, making YouTube videos. That sounds great, but did you forget to do your orders today? And you're going to come into the weekend and forget that that's a busy time, right? So it's a useful tool for not getting lost in that sense. So even if you're just doing it for yourself, by all means, tell yourself, hey, what's your job? I had a different challenge, which was as I tried to separate myself from the business, because, I can't do it all. And I'm now looking at the bigger pictures, like, go talk to the food administrator, the health district, and all this good stuff. What's my role? Like, what do I do at the store? Like, why am I important to the store? Why don't I just fire myself and let them run it, right? And when you sit down and you look at it, you're like, oh, wait a minute, they can't do payroll, they can't do this, right? So either you farm that out, and that's also another good thing that the business plan can do. Identify the things that are like, why are you still doing this, versus like your business manager can do this, and she's got time to do it, or in our case, she never has time because she's always working way late. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, it's essential. I think even if it is just for you to lay out what your role is, and if it is all you're the accountant, but you put those under your hat, they're specified. You got to do payroll. You got to do ordering. It's good to have it in there to keep you yourself on track.
Yeah.
And just on a personal note, I think the most important part of the business plan, especially if we're talking somebody who has not started yet, Like this is, not like you guys where like you kind of rolled into it and then, okay, let's work out a plan a couple of years into it,
Yeah.
which is fine. But for somebody who's not like even touched the business, they're like, oh, this is still in the idea phase and this is something that they want to do. I think the most important point is to really get the right numbers and just make sure you can do it. Because like there's a big difference between, when you actually crunch what your margins are going to be and like how much you're going to make. And at that point, you're also kind of just guessing a lot of what your sales are going to look like. But you have to know, like really just getting the idea of how much you have to sell every single day to cover all your costs based off, and like really having an understanding of like what your rent is going to be, what your bills are going to be, what your, if you're going to have employees, how much they're going to cost, how much are you going to pay yourself. Like just breaking all that down, getting the spreadsheet out and then doing it all will really give you like an eye opener. You're like, oh, this is like when you actually see all the numbers in one space, you're like, oh, there's actually a lot more to running a business than you'd think. Just being like, oh, I just want to sell some cards, right?
Some folding tables, some chairs, and you're in business.
Yeah.
You can't. It really. So part of the business plan is to look at your competitors and your markets, right? That's the market in general, the industry, and also your local market, your local customers, right? Because identifying your customers will tell you a little bit. I don't know, let's just say you're trying to open up like a high-scale cafe and you live in, oh man, I don't want to offend anybody, but a not so pretty area, right?
Okay.
Are your customers really there? Are they interested in the 75-cent cup of coffee, or do they want to buy the $5 heavy laden with cream sugar bomb kind of situation, right? So identifying your customers is important, but one of the difficulties, Wayne, is that there's not any good numbers in this industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you went out there, you can do all kinds of marketing. I'm finding it with the food industry, right? If I can go find out how much a cafe on average makes, depending on the density of population, blah, blah. For game stores, there is nothing. There is absolutely nothing. And it is huge differences. I can tell you that nowadays, the number of stores it used to be unheard of that a game store would make over $1 million in sales. And when you hear this figure, don't start going like nuts, going, "Oh, I'm going to be a millionaire."
Yeah.
It ain't what you put in your pocket, guys.
Yeah, sales is not profit.
Right, but it's not as uncommon to find stores like that. And by that same token, there's a lot of stores that make do with $100,000 of sales a year, right? So what you're really shooting for, even though you can't get a good number, how much am I going to make in sales? Because if you think you're going to open up and you're going to make over $1 million your first year, I don't know, you better put $5 million into that business to start off with, because it's about the only way you're going to do it. Excuse me, today is just, pardon me for a second.
I mean, if we take a look at financial data, that's something I'm continuously doing. I mean, that's part of a business plan, but I'm not revising a business plan per se. I'm just looking at my financials and reviewing them. So even bits and pieces of a business plan are certainly relevant while you're running your business, even if you're not revising the whole business plan once a year or every so often. And yeah, I mean, just something I discovered this week was I was looking at the actual what I was paying my supplier for D&D books and Magic product, like stuff that you can get direct from Wizards of the Coast. Yep. And I noticed that, oh my God, these guys are actually charging me $10 more per box of Magic, which isn't like too bad, but it's something.
That adds up.
It does. But then the D&D books, and I always just put them on the shelf because they have the MSRP on the cover for US and Canada, and I just sell them for the Canadian US MSP, suggested retail price. And like they was charging $10 more for those. And that's quite a significant bite into my margin when you're selling the book at its advertised price, the MSRP that's written on the book. So yeah, that was kind of a rude awakening. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm not going to be ordering from that supplier anymore, and I'm going to get it direct from Wizards. And I mean, because I don't want to increase the price of my books because my suppliers tried charging me more. Because I think you should just charge for the most part, unless it's a scarcity driven item like Magic's Eternal Masters. but there's no reason to go above suggested retail price, and really against discounting, because that just makes it harder to survive, and you require a much larger, exponentially larger cash flow to be able to do that. And I certainly don't have that kind of money, unlike some of the other shops in the city. So very important to keep looking at your financial factors, whether they're what your sales are, what you're paying for product, etc. And that's part of what looking at my last year, I was like, okay, it's time to give everybody raises. And now as I'm investing in my employees, because I looked at my books and I'm like, okay, we should be able to afford paying everyone more. So that's going through right now, and I'm also hoping to increase sales from even though last year was our best year ever. I want to keep moving forward, and it'll be interesting to see. Right now we're about the same, maybe a little better, and most of the year is still left. So I really think we can beat what we did last year, and if we do, then I can raise wages again the next year, and I've told my employees this, and so that's great motivation for them. It makes me feel good, makes me feel more confident in my future in the business, and a bunch of things. But looking at the financials, again, something you should be doing fairly often, not just once in a while for a business plan, even though it's a business plan.
And that goes back to that revision. If you do a yearly revision of like, hey, I was expecting to make $100,000 in sales and make $150,000, right? Great, awesome. Or I was expecting to do $100,000 in sales, I'm making 50. Now what do I do, right? So while it's difficult to get that number, and again, we're all very, very much different. When you go, so-and-so makes X, but so-and-so has 15 employees, you'll have only you, and your chance of making X may not be as good as you think it is, right? What's important about doing that kind of research is at least it's setting your break-even point, like Wayne said, right? What do you really need to survive and stay in business? And then that gives you a realistic picture of what kind of sales you need to do, right? And that might paint a totally different picture than what you had in your head. If you go, oh my God, I need, $10,000 a month in sales just to stay in business with me, myself, nobody else, just to pay the rent, the utilities, and there are so many costs that you don't really think about till you get into it. A lot of people don't have a concept of what a channel sign costs, right, for your business outside. They don't realize we're talking thousands, potentially tens of thousands of dollars for a sign. So those kind of things, when you start doing the research and go, hey, I'm going to talk to 3 sign companies and they're going to give me their quotes, and I then have a heart attack and realize that, oh my God, I need a lot more money than I budgeted for. I mean, I look at some of these Kickstarters sometimes and I'm going, your budget here is literally like the tables. You know what I mean? You're shooting for $2,000 to open. Okay, what are you opening with? An advertising employee? Is it, who knows what they're doing exactly? But it's going to be difficult to get actual numbers of what companies make for sales in this industry. It's really hard. It's not very, data is not shared, but what you should be looking at least is what number will you need to make your business stay alive for a year, for 2 years, et cetera, et cetera. And that gives you a number of what you should be making and go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one of the trickier parts too, is that you can't find the data until you really get started, which is what Wayne was saying, is that once you have it, the best data you have is your own shop. Like that's your historical financial data is what you can really work off of for the next year, because that's probably going to be the most accurate for you. But just before you get going, there's no real easy template that you can be like, like John said about the cafes or a restaurant. You can probably get data on that from virtually anywhere, for any city, for any population, and it'll be fairly every business is different, but it'll be pretty close, pretty accurate, and you can use that to base your predictions off of, or your forecasts. But there's not a lot to do to go on for the games business, and the best you can really do is is probably just over budget. Just put way more, set aside way more than you think, and one of the rules of thumb is to just whatever you expect you need. If if you're like, oh, gonna need 50,000, it's probably gonna be closer to 75.
Okay.
Just add 50%, and you'll probably do a lot better. Your odds of success will go up far higher than you think if you just try and scrape by with what you expect to need.
Right. And again, it's not like, is it mandatory? Is it going to guarantee success? No.
Yeah.
In theory, though, what you're trying to do is prevent yourself from making a very costly mistake. Okay. And that's, I got lucky. Wayne got lucky, busted the butt, right? But realistically speaking, by all accounts, I should not have succeeded. I am that store that started literally with some tables, a 300 square foot store, and a binder of Magic singles, right? I understand that was 21 years ago, but it really made no sense. It just happened. But at the same token, I can also go buy a lottery ticket and not worry about working if I win. You know what I mean? Those odds aren't the greatest. So you're trying to just better your odds. And in general, again, you're trying to stop yourself from making a colossal and costly mistake that could potentially be life-altering and not something you want. So do you have Thomas, do you have a business plan for your, because it's a business, right?
For my thing, for my thing going on. I've got a lot of notes. Like I've not decided to like seek money from a bank or anything to set anything up.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just
a good question.
Skype. Yeah, no, I've got probably like 2 notebooks full of ideas and like the way I want things to go and plans, but nothing of a formal variety. And that's because I don't plan on doing that. Like that's what we were talking about before, right? Like the difference between the business plan for you and the business plan for somebody else. And in the case of trying to get them or trying to convince somebody to invest in you. And I went the other way. Like I've done business plans of like a very thick, 30 pages with the executive summary and gone through that whole process. And I found it useful, but also like it can be really distracting. Like in the sense that that's almost stopping you from doing like the actual work of going out and like finding customers in a business and like making sales and stuff, right? Like it's almost like a form of procrastination. It's something that you like, oh, I'm working on my business plan. I'm working on it, and then like a year will go by and I think it's a business plan is something that you can do simultaneously to actually actively trying to start something. And like, kind of like the way that John started in the sense that you probably could have been formulating the plan of what you wanted this to turn into at the same time you were making sales. And I think that's part of the reason why you succeeded, despite the odds against what you were doing. Like realistically, like that kind of an operation today would be hard pressed to make it, but it's not impossible. Like I've known several guys, especially in like the KW Toronto area, who have gotten their start as kind of like a backpack dealer, right? Like they treated it like a business. They set their hobby aside and they treated magic as a commodity, and they just bought and sold and made a profit and set their prices and just put in the effort to actually just accumulate the collection, make sales, make connections, build a network. And they parlayed that into like either the online store. Like I did an interview with Peter Senegra. It was a while ago, but he owns cardadvantage.ca. And like he originally was a backpack dealer with a couple of guys, and they just kind of got together and started doing business, right? So like I think it's there are 2 ways to do it, and I think doing it while you're actually doing the work, I think it's a really powerful way of actually getting started.
Yeah, and it's it's a lot of the guys in this industry start just like that. Man, I don't know, this is fun. Let me do this and see what happens, right? No. And it's okay when you have a job, when you this is not your formula.
It is different.
You're not worrying about like where's my mortgage coming from, where's the formula for the kid coming from, right? But if that's the case, because I've talked to a couple of people who's like, oh, I just got laid off and I thought, I could just take my $10,000 in savings and start a business because I always wanted to run my own business. Those are the people.
That's a huge risk.
Right. I'm like, man, that's a gamble. You're going to put a lot of time and resources. Maybe you should be looking for a job right now, right? And versus doing this. So that business plan, doing it now, If it is while you're searching for a job or while you're working in a real job, and for those people, that's the people I would highly recommend would do it right before they go. Versus like, you're right. Hey, I'm having fun with this. I'm gonna do it, and if it makes money, great. If it doesn't make money, I still have a roof over my head. I still have food in the pantry, right? Those are two totally different things.
Yeah, it depends on the approach. Because if like we went back to Peter, if what he did was not, oh, I'm going to sell cards at tournaments and I'm going to gradually build this thing up from nothing and just kind of hustle, to what like a lot of game stores will do, which is just like, I'm just going to put down the money and I'm going to get the space and I'm going to just get all the tables and we're just going to open up, without it really any forethought or research into what it takes. Yeah, like very different approaches to starting a business, right? One is kind of like you have the runway, right? I'm pretty sure Peter had his own side job. He was probably working at the time. He wasn't reliant on making this business work right off the bat, because chances are it's not going to happen. Like almost every single business, sales go whoosh, like that the first year, right? Like you go from very little and then you kind of gradually increase, and then hopefully you hit that break-even point after about a year or two. But the odds of you being like, I'm going to open my doors and I'm going to be able to pay all my bills and pay myself and cover my rent and like do all of this right off the bat is, I don't even know what the odds of that are. Like 1%, maybe less. Like the chances of that happening are super, super slim. So if you're taking that leap and you have no safety net, right? Like that's part of the importance of the business plan, is building in a runway, right? You need to have like, okay, so I put in all the money. I put in the $50,000 that I needed to open up a shop, and then I have the $25,000 set aside so that I can use that to get to my break-even point, and hopefully not crash and burn before then. That's your runway. But for somebody who's just kind of doing this as a side hustle, that's the runway is their job. Like they've got their costs covered, and they can kind of roll into that as they go. So that's kind of the idea.
Yeah, and I don't know how it was for Wayne, but for me, when the business started, I was going to college and I was working full time at a big box store as an assistant store manager. So it was the least of my worry. We split the rent in this little 300 square foot store with some friends of ours. They were running a comic book store out of it. So our risks were very minimal. A business plan or not, that could have been an instant bailout right off the bat. You go, hey, this is not working. You get out, you're done. On the other hand, if you look at like, I'm going to rent a 5,000 square foot store, I'm going to sign a 3-year lease, which nowadays it's probably the minimum they're going to sign you for, and you're tied into that. Just the rent alone, it way exceeds your capacity with a decent job to pay it, right? I mean, there's no way. So then you're looking at bankruptcy, trying to get out of this lease. It's again, what do you want out of it? Without a doubt, if you're going to rent a place, some places actually, the landlord wants to see your business plan. That's literally hey, I'm going to give it to you, and then what? In 6 months, I got to kick you out. So
yeah, and no landlord wants that to happen, right? Like they want a relationship that'll keep going. They don't want you to set up and fail. That would be terrible for them too. No, it's bad for
and it's also for them. It's a lot of times they're putting in tenant improvements themselves, right? So they're looking to recoup those costs with your rent over a certain amount of time. If you bail in 6 months, it does them no good. But that's kind of like, I don't think, did we forget anything as far as we talked about putting in their competitive analysis? Did we talk about that? Looking at your competitors, but actually really looking at it. We have a tendency to kind of go.
Yeah, we kind of skipped that.
So we did talk about the topic in the business plan. I was looking at your competitors and stuff, but we didn't get into the specifics of that. And I know one thing that I looked at, being in a large metropolitan city. So for me, location, like that's a huge one. You gotta see where your competitors are, how far away you are from them. And for me, as I said, I wanted to be by a subway station. That was super important to be a subway station in a big city. So I just basically looked at places around subway stations that were far enough from other game shops that we wouldn't be in each other's neighborhood. And did a lot of research, looked at not just just competitors, but when you're looking at a location, you also got to look at the numbers. I mean, you can go to any public library, at least here in Canada, and you can look up what the statistics are in certain neighborhoods, so you know how many people that live in that area that are in your target market, for example.
I don't know about libraries here, but for people in the U.S., Chamber of Commerces are a huge resource.
Sure. So, yeah, there's resources. So yeah, location, and even after doing that research, I still had a game store owner swing by and go, "You just opened up in my backyard," and he was kind of miffed about it, and I was like, "Really? Like, we're pretty far away." Like,
what was his definition of backyard? Like 3 kilometers away? 4 kilometers?
Gosh, I don't know exactly the kilometers. I could say it would have been about a 20-minute, half-hour walk at least. So it was a fair distance. Definitely a different neighborhood. Definitely different neighborhood. Not on the subway, etc., etc. And even another game store owner came by to check me out because he felt the crunch. He felt the drop in sales after I opened, and he was much further away, like several subway stops away, like maybe an hour walk. But you know, when you secure a good location on a subway in a specific area of the city, I think that's just naturally gonna help give you that customer base. Over someone who's opened up a shop who might have cheaper rent, but they're like off in some street that's hard to get to. So yeah, I guess I'm just talking about location here with competitors. But I also, and you got, and okay, there's location, then there's event planning. So, you know, I think all game stores should be running events. So assuming game stores are all running events, you really have to look at what your competitors are doing, what they're charging for their events or not charging, what kind of prizes they're giving away, what types of events, and what their event calendar looks like. And most places will have an event calendar on their website, so you can. And I very specifically looked at what was happening with Magic in Toronto, and you know, the most popular place to go was, you know, they had standard constructed on Thursdays, booster draft, F&M. So I did the opposite. I did booster draft on Thursday nights, and we've established ourselves as a Thursday night booster draft location in the West End in Toronto. It does very well. And then in Friday Night Magic, standard constructed, we're now the longest running Friday Night Magic standard event in Toronto, I believe, at this point. So location, events. What I don't recommend getting hung up on or looking at too closely is how they're pricing their product. You got to know some of it. You got to understand some of it, but you can't worry too much about like how they're discounting things, what they're pricing things at. You have to price things at what is going to make you survive. You got to do what's best for you. If you're always looking at your competitors and thinking, oh, I got to price match them, well, maybe they're making less off that product because they have this huge cash flow where they can buy a much higher quantity, and their business model includes, you know, when a Magic set comes out, they expect to sell 100 or more boxes of the set. And when my Magic set comes out for me, I plan to sell maybe a dozen. And my video is off. Can you still hear me though?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, and I think my video's back, and your video is gone. But so I think you need to be a little cautious about worrying too much about what your competitors are pricing things at, and really focus on what margins you need to make, and to qualify those margins. Like, I'm not discounting my board games. So what do they get when they walk into my store if they don't get the lowest price? Well, they get knowledgeable staff that are really friendly, that are going to walk them through a whole bunch of different games, talk to them about different games that they like, try to find something that fits with what they like to do. You know, so you just up your customer service. Because, you know, at the discounter stores, you're not going to get that kind of service. They just want you in and out and make that sale as fast as possible. And some customers prefer that. They just want the cheapest price and want to go in and out. And other customers, they want that connection. They want that feeling of community. They want to like chat it up. They want to, pick your mind. And, you give them that time of day, well, then they're paying for that extra service by paying regular price for a board game, which even a regular price isn't a huge markup. So I guess those are the three things I'd like to touch on.
Yeah, and that brings up another important point of the business plan. It's what's known as the USP, the unique selling proposition. What sets you apart, right? And like that's something that we went over with the summary. Essentially, it's probably one of the most important things about what makes you different, and what will help you succeed, right? Like if you're just like everybody else, you're just gonna fade into the background and what will get people to come to you as opposed to the store that's maybe a kilometer away or
right, and
a mile away.
That's definitely where some people make some really potentially, I mean, in general, again, the biggest mistake is you can do better just because you think that this guy isn't listening to his customers or isn't, but if they've been around and you see their store and it's got customers in it, it's also very difficult sometimes. People make assumptions. You can walk into the store and it looks dead, but that guy rung up $10,000 at that register. People came in, bought stuff, and left, right? Or he's hopping with customers. It's packed, but they're all there for the free Magic tournament, and they're actually buying maybe sodas, and that's it. So it's easy to get a skewed perspective on this, and you got to be very careful when you estimate your competitors. But Wayne kind of rolled in a whole bunch of stuff into one. But you're touching on several different points, which all are important for the business part, right? That competitive analysis is important, and that's hard to be, but you have to be objective at that. Find out, why are they still in business? Why do you think they're still running, even though it looks like they shouldn't, right? What's their unique business proposition? Which is, again, another piece of the marketing, the business plan. Absolutely essential if you're seeking out a loan. That investor, those bankers want to know what makes you different. Very important if you're just doing it for yourself, because if you can't come up with a reason why they should be in your place, and it's not because you're going to give free F&M, I'm sorry, it's got to be something that makes you money, not something like, I'm going to discount. People will come to me, okay, great, so I'm going to match your discount and now I'm going to throw in ice cream. And the guy next door is going to throw in ice cream on a waffle cone. There's always something that you can compete on price, but it's not the way to do it. It's absolutely the worst possible way to do it, because you're attracting also the wrong kind of clientele. I got news for you. If you're looking at just price, the internet can do it better than you can. You can afford to run out of a garage and sell stuff at dirt cheap.
You're just not going to beat Amazon.
Yeah.
Well,
let's just say you're you know what? I'm an IT tech. I make $70,000 a year, and I don't care if I lose money on selling stuff online, because all I'm trying to do is get my toys for less. You know what I mean? So you win your customers for reasons other than pricing. Pricing, don't get me wrong, it is important to a certain degree, right? But you don't want to jack every customer that comes in your store with like 10 times the retail or anything like that. There's a fair price, stick to it. But that's part of your operations plan, the events that he was talking about, and sort of your marketing, right? That's how do you position yourself to be unique, or at the very least different enough from everybody else that's in town, and offering essentially the same goods you are. And Wayne touched on it. It's the experience, right? What's the experience when it comes into your store? That needs to go into that business plan. That's important to put it on paper. At least visualize it for you, the owner, the guy that goes, okay, I'm going to put money into this. How do I get it back? Or the investor that goes, again, I'm going to give you money. How do I get it back?
Yeah, and then it's also important for the long-term plan, for the long-term vision of what your business is going to be, right? Because like part of what makes you unique is I'm going to create a really great experience, and that's why people are going to come to me. But you kind of like want to articulate what the experience is going to be like, right? What kind of customer service? What does it mean for you to like sit down with somebody and teach them how to play Magic and build that customer into somebody who's going to come back over and over again? Not just be like, we're going to be really good at it. We're going to be like really great customer service. Like that's a very nebulous term. It doesn't mean like anything specific. So really like picking apart what it means and what you're going to be doing, and then also like how is that going to pan out for 5 years from now. Yeah. And ideally, if you're going to go through the work of writing a business plan, you want to write it so that somebody else could pick it up and maybe not like, oh, this is my, you don't want to give it to somebody and then they're going to turn it into a store of their own. But you should be able to give it to your manager and be like, okay, this is what we're all about. Like, the business plan can also be kind of like an SOP handbook for your employees too. It's the ability to be like, okay, so this is what we're doing, guys. Give it to your manager, give it to your team, and they can take that and then extend your vision and maybe add to it in ways that you didn't expect when you were just on your own.
Yeah, well, that's at that point that your employees can really contribute in a really positive way once they understand the direction you want to go. Absolutely, that's super important.
Exactly.
The bottom line to take away from all this is it's all planning. I mean, we call it a business plan, and there's a template, but the more planning you do, the better off you're going to be. And I know, like, when I had the idea to start the shop, it was a couple years before I opened. And I wasn't even taking notes at first. I was just thinking and thinking and thinking about it. And then, you start taking some notes, and then you start, moving towards it slowly until you're ready to just go for it. But you can't do enough planning. I mean, I guess you could do too much planning. You just,
at some point you have to stop and start doing.
Yeah,
you have to execute at some point.
Well, also because you're not testing your plan, right? You have to test your plan, and that's unfortunately kind of like where mistakes are revealed. But then you adapt and you revise and you fix it, right? So
I'm trying to think of the saying. I think it was like Patton or something like that, but like no plan survives contact with the enemy.
Yes, that's I think it was Patton.
It's something like that. But the plan's great. Yeah. Doing the plan, the actual act of creating a plan is very valuable. The plan itself may not pan out at all. Like, you could be completely wrong with all your forecasts, all your numbers, all your research. It could be completely wrong. Like John said, you could be expecting $100,000 in sales, and you could get way less. You can get way more. You don't know until you really get started and see where things are going and start adjusting. So there's a point where the rubber meets the road, and you have to kind of, plan. Okay, let's do it, and then adjust as we go along, right? But the act of doing it is, I would say, vital. Like, you don't just jump into this thing. Like any business, don't just jump in.
Don't do what I did.
Anybody got anything else? Like, I think we did pretty good coverage on the whole idea. I don't think we missed anything.
And like always, if anybody listening has any questions, Thomas is easy to get a hold of. We're on Facebook. You just ask, and we can follow up in the next episode with any specific question that we did not address in this one. So. Yeah,
absolutely. And on that point, Thomas, has there been any comments on any previous podcasts that are questions or something that people want clarifications on or anything like that?
Nothing yet. But
okay.
The last, I don't know, you guys probably realize the last 3 weeks have been almost like me just gone offline.
Yeah, you're and everything.
It's been a very busy few weeks. Getting everything unpacked and unsettled a lot.
I don't know if your readers even know that you've moved. Obviously, the background is different, but
yeah,
no one knows, but they'll know now. They'll know for this episode.
And I might be really crazy for a little bit here coming up pretty soon as we move to the new store. But hopefully, when we do, I'll have the studio set up, and my background will look a little bit better than just a plain white wall over here.
Cool. I look forward to seeing what you got once it's done. How long do you think it's going to take?
We don't know. Most of the studs, most of the drywall is gone. Most for the interior walls, most of the studs are gone. There's still some work to be done. They ripped up the carpet, so now we're waiting on 3 different contractors to give us bids on the floor. We're hoping the end of the month, beginning of next month. We'll see what happens. So once I move in, you guys will know for sure, and I will too at that point. So.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks guys for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. I think we covered the business plan pretty sufficiently. Hopefully, some listeners got some nuggets of wisdom out of us.
Mm-hmm.
And
and thanks for watching, guys. Whoever's out there in the internet land.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tom, for having us once again, and looking forward to the next one. And any viewers out there, listeners, want to know anything specifically about running a game store, fire some questions away, either in the comments or contact. I think Thomas would be the best person to contact since he runs the show. But we're looking for topics, so shoot away. Let us know what you want to talk about.
Yeah, if guys want to contact me, it's Tom at manaversesaga.com. And if people want to find you guys, where should they go? Like, plug your
Probably
Twitter,
easiest
plug your
way would
Facebook.
be
What's
to,
going on?
well, if you get on the website, shopofmagic.com, there's a contact form there. The employees will forward it to me. Otherwise, Facebook, just search for John Coviello, or if you find Shop of Magic, which is a store page, I will also be able to contact you there. So Twitter works too. I think it's Shop of Magic at Twitter. So.
Yeah, and my website has a contact form as well, and the email is info@dueling-grounds.com. You can also message us through our Dueling Grounds Facebook page. It's probably the easiest, fastest way to get a hold of me. Yeah, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. All right. Well,
All right,
thanks for coming on,
great.
guys. We will talk to you again soon.
All right,
Bye.
thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Manaverse Podcast covering business plans. If you did, I want you to do 3 things for me. I want you to like this video. I want you to share it with your friends. And I want you to subscribe to the page. And if you're feeling uber generous, you can do a 4th thing. You can subscribe to the podcast. That'd be sweet, too. Well, that's it. I'm going to sign out now. And I will see you guys on the next episode of the Manaverse Podcast. Bye.